Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, automotive enthusiasts from all around the planet Earth, you did it once again. You hit play on yet another...
Kevin, another Isochronous episode.
Isochronous.
V8 Radio.
Isochronous.
Meeting happening at the same time.
Oh.
As the PRI Show.
Wow, that was impressive.
Thank you.
Well, this is the V8 Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oeste, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Isochronous himself, Mike Cue-Ball Clarke.
That was my nickname in high school.
Yeah, will be again, whenever you graduate. And we have a couple of very special guests. Our own Mr. Brian Wibbenmeyer is joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has.
And our super special guest, none other than PRI President, Mr. Mike Good.
It's good to be here. I'm questioning all of my life's decisions, though, because I've never heard the word isochronous till about 60 seconds ago.
Oh, just wait, it gets worse. Well, we're very fortunate to be able to record this live here at the PRI Podcast Studio, of course, the PRI Racing Show in Indianapolis, and we've got a lot to cover with that with Mike. But as our regular listeners know, we start each and every episode of V8 Radio with a trivia question, in which we toss the question out to each other here in the beginning, and then we make everybody sit to the end of the show to find out the riveting answers. Most of them have figured out the fast forward function, but for those who have not, you get to sit through it. But we're going to do a little bit differently this time because there's four of us, and if we just did the four individual trivia questions and banter and answers, that would be the entire show. And I can already hear Kelly sighing, saying, just get to the point already.
Keep moving, boys.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow Mr. Good to toss out a trivia question because he's our very super special guest. And then between the three of us, Mr. Q, Mr. Wibbenmeyer, and myself, we're going to kind of draw straws and see which one of us we'll do one. So there'll be two questions total, okay? Mr. Good, we're going to... You pick a number between 50 and 75, Mr. Good. Get that number in your head. Got it? All right, you guess.
51.
51.
60.
60. All right, I win. So, Mr. Good, you get to go first. You can ask your trivia question, and then we'll go down the line here and see. Again, don't reveal the answer, but we'll just give it a shot. So what do you got, my friend?
Man, see, this is where you could have prepped me.
I did.
I didn't know it was coming right out of the gate.
I got one. How do you spell isotopus or whatever?
Well, if you need a moment, I will toss mine out, and then we'll get to you next. We can do that.
Do that.
All right. All right, so we'll go just down the line. Mr. Cue-Ball, my question to you first is, in what city? It's a two-parter.
Jeez.
Right? An A and a B?
All right.
If you get it right, you win nothing, and if you get the bonus, you also win nothing.
Can't wait.
In what city was the very first PRI show, and how many exhibitors were featured there?
Jeez Louise. All right, the first city to ever host the PRI show.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some clues, Mike. He's giving me nothing.
I'm not.
Keep your eyes on your own paper,
Okay.
Mr. High School.
I will tell you, it's
Mr.
not
High School
where we're
nickname.
sitting. How's that for a clue?
What's that?
It's not where we're sitting.
Very good. I was hoping that.
Yes.
All right. First PRI show was held in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Ooh, you're always an Ohio go-to there.
That's right. And they had 50 exhibitors.
Cleveland, 50. All right. Mr. Good, you got a guess on this one?
Did you write that down?
I did. He wrote it down.
Yeah.
50 Cleveland.
Do
What
I have
got?
a guess on
Yes,
that?
yeah.
Oh, we're answering them right now?
Not answering. How many? Everybody throws their guess out.
Of how many exhibitors?
Where was the first PRI show, and how many exhibitors did it have? And no looking up at your phone.
No, I wasn't looking at that.
He's actually working here right now.
I've got fire alarms. I'm going to go with, we'll try Louisville.
Ooh, Kentucky.
And we'll go with, you said 50 exhibitors?
He said
I did say 50. You can also say 50.
I can. Totally different state. Let's go with, Steve Lewis is quite the salesman. I'm going to go with 82.
82. Okay, Louisville and 82. Mr. Wibbenmeyer, you got a guess on this one?
Let's do L.A. and 60.
LA 60. All right.
That's a Kevin Oeste answer. 4 seconds.
Done. Yeah. Okay. Well, we will find out at the end of the show what the correct answer to that one is. And also, now your turn, Mr. Good. You got some?
Yeah, I'll stay on the PRI theme. The longest tenured employee of PRI that is still with the company and works for PRI today has been with us for how many years?
Ooh. Well, because I'm a gracious host, I'm going to defer this to Mr. Brian to start.
I'm going to say 32 years.
That's a great answer.
That was your answer, wasn't it?
It was close. Let's see, if we remember right, the first PRI was in 1987?
Different trivia question,
Yeah,
but great answer.
I'm just trying to remember. I don't want to say 50 years. So, I'm going to say 35 years.
Okay. I'm going to say 17 because that's all I'm going to say.
Very good.
All right, so we'll find out the answer to these riveting trivia questions at the end of the show. And I can tell everybody's bated breath over there. All right, so the fun part, though, is that this is Mr. Mike Good's very first PRI experience as the president of the organization. So this is the big show for you and the big day, the big event.
Yes, sir.
What do you think?
Well, we're looking at a championship-winning IMSA car hanging upside down about 40 feet from us.
Yeah.
So just the visual eye candy of that is spectacular. But back to the more, I guess, legit, serious answer to your question. You come into this situation, in this role, with a series of expectations in your mind that you don't necessarily share with anyone. They're just kind of yours. They're not on a metric list. It's exceeded all of those.
Awesome.
Great.
You know, I think I keep using the two words vibe and energy. There's just a tremendous vibe across the whole platform right now, and the energy in this building from the 7:30 a.m. yesterday morning when the grand opening breakfast video started, which was really the official launch of the show. I know the doors open at 9, but you know, from that moment, it's just been energy in the building, and you see everything was crowded really quick, really good turnout, and you know, don't want to really dive into COVID, but it's a part of our life that we've all lived through. The world changed for trade shows in 2020.
For sure.
And in 2020 specifically, there were no trade shows. So the trade show world, regardless of industry, has really compared itself to pre-COVID, post-COVID. And this is the first year since COVID that we're back to pre-COVID kind of numbers of people that are in the building, exhibitors, buyers, you know, all the metrics that really matter, that brings substance to PRI and help to create the brand equity that PRI is.
Yeah. Well, it's a racing fan's playground, man.
Yeah.
And
no better place to be in the world right now if you're in the racing.
Yeah.
Amen.
100%. Brian's like a kid in a candy store right now.
I'm not taking any credit for that, Steve. That's just a fact.
Yeah. You've been coming here for years, Brian. What do you think?
I love this place.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been trying to get in for 20 plus years, and thankfully I'm at least employed in the industry. Now I'm allowed in. This is great, and it is amazing
He was sneaking in before.
Hush over there.
His picture's actually on our list.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's the PRI milk.
I should have seen what I looked at before I got the constructive surgery, so I could let me in. Facial recognition. That's great. Yeah. No, it's great to be able to walk up to, again, these vendors, manufacturers. Take account how many famous race car drivers, owners, crew chiefs you've seen already in the next 30 minutes just walking through.
Yeah.
You know, one of my first ones, I walked up and I remember a guy to my right was like, "Hey, you know who you just almost ran into?" And I didn't even see this person.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't mention any names because she'd probably kill me. So, yeah.
Well, I'll drop some names on the way walking to this podcast. I was at the NHRA stage where they just announced, pretty big announcement about a sponsor and a driver. but I'm standing there talking to Frank Hawley.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know, the legendary, everyone that's ever done anything with drag racing or even just been a fan of drag racing knows who Frank Hawley is.
It's a goal to go to the school.
I've done
As
it.
I turn around and leave, talking to Frank Hawley, I run into Herb Fischel, General Motors, of General Motors fame and Corvette fame, and literally that was just said bye to one and turned around and said hi to the other, and where's that ever going to happen?
Exactly.
Yes, right here. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just the only place on earth where that exact situation would ever happen.
For sure, yeah, and it just happens naturally over and over again.
Right.
This whole weekend, and Brian, you know, so you're our resident drag and drive guy, and you know you do a lot of drag racing events. So to come here, it's just as much of part of the job as it is, you know, just being in the culture. You know?
As I said, you know, I'd take a day off to come here if I had to. You know, let's go. Absolutely. I mean, walking into the studio here, a guy named Mike Finnegan walked out. Everybody saw that.
Right.
You know, boom, done. Walking past that HRA stage on the way here.
Right.
Well, I mean, lots of star power right there. Yes, but yeah, I do a little bit of drag racing, not because I'm good at it, because I enjoy it.
Right.
You know?
Go see Frank Hawley. You'll be really good at it.
You know, hey,
there you go.
if there's
You might enjoy it more if
here,
you're
I'm
good at
in.
it.
Let's go.
It's another PRI moment.
Oh, man.
That's
I know
right.
his schedule, and yes, that is absolutely a goal to. I got to work on reaction times, but
You know, that's the. I don't want to interrupt your line of questioning, but you know, the beauty of this whole show is the relational connectivity of the show. It's the connective tissue. Yes, we have amazing products, and yes, there's tremendous innovations and technologies and famous people roaming the halls. But it's really that relational aspect of, you know, I say all the time we do three things as an organization: connect, protect, and advocate. And this show is where that connect part really comes to life. And, you know, a lot of the people that are in this building, they haven't seen each other since they were at PRI last year. They're in different sanctioning racing. They live in different geographic regions of the world. Being that this can be that nucleus to connect the entire industry, because we're agnostic. We don't have a favorite form of racing or driver or brand. We love it all. And so this takes place here. It's such a cool. It's one of the most special parts of the whole aspect of PRI.
Well, we call those PRI moments.
That's right.
Right, and the twin to that is the SEMA moments, and it's when you walk in. So Mike had one just the other day or yesterday when you were having lunch.
We did. I was sitting down with actually an employee of the shop who was here for his first time, and we sat down, and a couple of gentlemen came up and asked if they could sit with us. We said, sure, absolutely. And they started asking us what we do. Like, we restore cars, and we have a machine shop. And he says, oh, that's great. I have a machine shop as well. And we restore cars. I'm like, get out of here. And he mentioned something about his dyno room. And that's something that we're adding to our machine shop, to be able to dyno tune our engines and test them before we put them in our cars. And I said, can I pick your brain, please, on how you built your dyno room? He says, absolutely. And he just, for about a half hour, gave me all the ins and outs of building a dyno room. It was such valuable information, and he was just giving it away, and it was beautiful. And our guy who was with us, our new employee, his mind was blown. He's like, this is absolutely amazing. So that was really his PRI moment for the show so far.
It's pretty funny. That's awesome. You mentioned the dyno. This is another type of conversation that would only happen here. Yesterday, a gentleman was talking about needing to upgrade his dyno because his customers are getting over the 12 to 1,300 horsepower range.
Oh boy!
Right. And you're like,
what troubles?
Where in the world does that happen? And so he's here looking at dyno options and for 2,000 plus horsepower cars, and it's just a surreal. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You know, when he bought that, I didn't ask him how long ago he bought a 1,200 horsepower tapped out dyno. Probably thought that would last him the rest of his need for ever owning a dyno.
Yeah.
We'll never make engines that powerful.
Right.
And what's so cool about this event is, for most of us that are enthusiasts or racers or hobbyists or work in this industry, the chance to just talk about cars and talk about motors and talk about stuff generally is, recreational, here it's all business, so the conversations you're having are about, we need that 2,500 horsepower dyno.
Right.
And again, if you were just hanging out in your garage, with the neighbor down the street, having a beer, and it's like, what'd you do today at work? Well, we need to up our dyno power. It's like, what? But here everybody knows what you're talking about. Right. There's no act, there's no faking this. This is all natural, organic DNA of racing, power, and performance. And it's like, you feel like we're home.
Right.
So as far as the PRI organization in general is going, obviously the show is the biggest thing of the year, but it takes you guys a long time to put this together, but there's all kinds of other stuff going on throughout the rest of the year.
There's a lot going on. I've been here 10, 11 months now, but when you come into any into any organization in a leadership role, you've really got to challenge yourself to not try to fix what's not broken. And there's a whole bunch with PRI that's not broken. And when I think about that, you start investigating it and you're like, okay, where's the upside opportunity here? We're the nucleus of the racing industry. We're out to connect, protect, advocate for the whole industry. And so it's really around what can we be doing the other 51 weeks of the year to bring value to those three things. And, that's getting into things like there's three big initiatives. I'll be very quick on this, but one of them, getting closer to the racetracks. And I mean more than having a 3x5 flag hanging on the back fence at a track, like really getting into understanding what are these tracks trying to do, what can we do to help them, how can we be an evangelist for their mission to put more butts in seats, to get more drivers out there to the track to experiment. And then you have the sanctioning bodies. That's number two, really connecting with these sanctioning bodies and understanding their strategies and what they're trying to do to grow their series. And you talk to folks like John Doonan, heads up IMSA, really set the bar on how to really turn around a sanctioning body and put it best in class across all fronts. They're doing, yesterday he was talking, give an example, they're doing a scholarship, and it's for IMSA drivers, young, like coming up IMSA drivers, where it's not about getting across the finish line. It's about money to help them with life skills. Things like, he gave an example of guy spins off course, gets out, starts yelling at the field, the marshalling folks. Well, it wasn't the marshalling guy's fault. That guy's there to save your life and protect you. And, so it's teaching all these life skills about the relational side of the business, how to talk to sponsors, how to talk to your coworkers, your race team, your techs. And I thought, man, you're really going above and beyond. And you're really giving these young folks tools that they're going to use the rest of their life, whether they're in a car or not. And I just think that's tremendous. And the third one gets a little bit alongside that. It's around attracting the next generation. We're Gen X. We're of that, or I am. I think you guys are. We're of that generation where, for us, a lot of times it was the parents dragging us into the racetracks, and that was our taste. Like my dad used to take me to the tractor pulls in northeastern Ohio and drag races and some dirt tracks. That's how I got introduced to it. It kind of happens, but not like it did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so now it's this. There's a whole generation of people that are finding and learning about racing. Some of them have never been to a track. Some of them have never driven a high-performance car, and they're learning everything on the phones. And that has planted the seed, the bug, the addiction. We need to be an entree point to bring those people into our motorsport, and because it all aligns to, if you can align your passion with your career, what a hell of a ride you're going to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Amen.
So, yes.
Sorry, long-winded.
No, that's great. And what I love about racing in general is, the BS walks, right? You can talk however you want, but you got to prove it on the track. And to your point, it's not just about when the Christmas tree turns green or when the green flag goes down. That race starts in the garage, 5 states away, or whatever it is, and all these things have to happen, which means you have to have a certain level of character and commitment just to be involved. And a lot of times you've got family, or you've got friends or groups of people that race together, and then ultimately race teams. And I think it breeds a special class of person who understands the perseverance to get there, but then can also handle the competition side and knows what it takes. It's funny, we hear a lot of times people say, I want to teach our kids to be winners. We want to teach everybody to be winners. And I think it's more important to teach them how to be a loser so that they can look and figure out what happened and get back out there and win again. And that's what racing does. It teaches you that whatever the obstacle is, if you're going to win this race or place or even finish it or get there, you're going to have to overcome some stuff, which of course spills over to daily life. And there's so many people you could tell that never had that opportunity or felt that pressure of, we have a goal, we want to get to that goal, and they go through life never being anything, unfortunately, because they weren't set up that way. But racing does that.
It does. We have, I know nothing about your guys' three backgrounds, your upbringings, but I do know that you are where you are today because you were able to learn and persevere through the failures that you may have had along the way. It's not the attaboys that got you here.
Right.
You don't even remember the attaboys.
I've not yet had
one. You remember those times when you...
Not yet had one.
Yeah, you have
I've had
to
a bunch of
Google
boy,
that.
but not attaboy.
You'll have to Google it, Kevin.
Thank you.
It's you remember every time you got kicked in the gut, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to be in that situation again, and you learn from it and move on, and hopefully you move up.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal.
So it's interesting, you coming into this show, this organization, with a thing that already, like you said, is largely not broken. It reminds me of the encouraging words that my father used to tell me, like right before I was going to do something. And it was, I guess it was positive, but it was always presented fairly negative, and that was, don't screw this up.
Yeah, that's a key message. Yeah.
Except the words might have changed.
That's very similar to when my first child was born, and she was minutes old, in my sarcastic banter with my wife, who's just given birth. I'm holding her, and I look over at her, and I said, she's perfect now. Let's not screw this up.
Yeah, right, for sure. Whereas a slightly more positive outlook would be like, in my dad's case, you're going to do great. No, don't screw it up.
Yeah, right.
Set that bar low.
That's right.
So I'm intrigued to learn more about the concept of the PRI presence at the track, and I love that because, to me, it seems like the PRI show in particular is like world headquarters for racing. And we all talk here and plan here, and then everybody goes out in the world for the year and does their thing, and then they kind of come back and reconvene. But if there's a presence at the tracks, then resources and opportunities are going to be available all year long, front and center. So specifically, what kind of things are you talking about being at a track?
So that is all still taking shape, but we have the TOPS program here. Amazing program. Tom Deary heads that up and really has just made it an amazing deliverable. TOPS is track operators, promoters, you get it. But for us, it's a little bit, the racetracks where every product in this house right now is tested and where it takes place. So if we're at the tracks, not all of them, but as many as we can be at, we'll have to be selective across all the various different sanctions, and running educational classes for next gen at a track during the qualifying day. Things like that, where we're just having staff there to answer questions about how to get more involved in the councils and the networks and the things you're very familiar with, Kevin. Really just being an evangelist for the sport and being a voice out there having conversations on behalf of the industry, not about a specific brand. We're not there. It's not our hand's not out asking for anything. We're just disseminating knowledge that we learn through all of our partners into the marketplace. And so I think education is the biggest factor. And then I think there's an experiential side that has to come into play as well. Everyone's getting more creative. Trade shows have to get more creative. If we're doing the same trade show 5 years from now that we're doing today, it's probably not a good thing. This is a great show in 2024. I don't know if this exact wash, rinse, repeat of a show is going to be good in 2030. And so people are looking for experiential aspects, both at the tracks when they go and invest their time, money, and resources to go. It costs a lot of money to go to a race, even just as a fan. And so when you get there, you got 6 hours to kill before the actual. You go sit in the stands, you walk around, you spend a few bucks at the vendor, and you buy your lemonade, shake up. But there's other things that can be going on there. There's a lot of great vendors that My Race Pass, Josh Holt, those guys do a really good job of educating. And I think PRI can just be a larger voice of sharing things that are going on, that whether it's talking about next gen or whether it's talking about safety developments that are coming out, or if it could be just walking around getting people's voices on their thoughts on what's going on, and what is it about coming to a sprint event that makes you want to come here, and what would you like to see more of, and acquiring data on behalf of the industry. So it's going to take on a variety of different forms, but we don't have the resources to go to all the tracks, but we can get to some of these tracks pretty quickly and start to have a presence there.
So it's no secret that I guess it was 12 years ago now that the SEMA Association
Correct.
acquired PRI as an entity, and that's a big topic of keeping these separated and not diluting the DNA of the PRI show with the SEMA show that happens in Vegas, because they're so very different. And really, for those who have not done both or don't really understand the context between the two, SEMA is the entire aftermarket industry, in which everything from appearance products and wheels and hard parts and restoration parts and collision and audio and everything that you can do to a vehicle is there, overlanding and camping and you name it. And if you segment that down, racing's a part of that, and here racing has its own show. It's the best way I could say it. Racing is a piece of the pie of the whole thing. SEMA is the whole thing. PRI is racing. So nobody wants to start putting in, the fringe appearance products here at PRI, because it's not racing. It's all racing all the time.
It's all business.
Yes, but one of the things that I think SEMA does pretty well, and they're always advancing on, and you touched on it, is their concept of councils and networks. And what this means is that people can volunteer to get involved with some of the various segments of SEMA. So, for example, I'm very involved in the Hot Rod Industry Alliance, which caters to any business that works in the hot rod world. And I volunteer time and do things to help promote the hot rod industry to everybody, but within SEMA. Now, PRI today, how can somebody get involved to donate time? Because I know Brian here would take a bullet for this organization and is always, how can I do something to help?
Sometimes I think things and you say it.
See? Yeah. I know each other too well.
We're sitting too close to each other.
Brian's on the banned list, though, from when he snuck in back in '88. I'm teasing. It's a good topic. It's a current topic taking place internally. So we have, I might get the number wrong, 9 or 11 councils, I believe, across all of SEMA. And
9.
Is it 9? Okay. Several of those, I think, have a direct correlated alignment to us. And PRI needs to be doing more with those councils, like MPMC, FLN, Future Leaders Network, ETTN. You're looking at a featured product showcase right over there, ETTN's Emerging Trends in Technology, and SBN. So, now that there's a structure in place at PRI, we're hoping to be able to make some more alignment there. But I also think there's an appetite for us to create some of our own councils that don't exist yet. And whether those are related to the promotion side of racing, or the track management side, or the safety side, or the product manufacturing side of it, yet to be determined, but they're all being explored currently.
Yeah, cool.
So, we want to be able to give people access to not just the show, but to the behind-the-scenes involvement, so that they have a voice in helping us shape what it is we're doing and providing back to the industry. And the councils play a significant role in that for SEMA. And currently, to be candid, it's a gap in our current PRI structure. But 10 months in, we'll get there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're looking at your opportunities to be present at racetracks. If you had that kind of council structure, this is where you could draw on local volunteers, wherever they are in the country, to show up at that track and wear the shirt and glad hand and do everything that they need to do. So, yeah, pretty cool. So before you were talking about how today we have a lot of people, you held up your phone, saying that their point of entry was perhaps digital, and the goal is to grow them into the physical side. But one thing that's really coming on strong here is digital racing, sim racing, and all that. It's incredible.
It's awesome. And sim's just a really exciting thing. It needs a little bit of clarity sometimes on the correlation of how it directly aligns with what else is going on here in the building. But last year we had around 8,000 square foot sim facility over in Lucas Oil Stadium, and this year it's 43,000 square feet.
Wow.
So you're talking about a 5X expansion of real estate. Did away with the go-kart track. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And if you think about, if you physically go look at the sims, a lot of those steering wheels are being made by companies like MPI, Max Pappas, who makes steering wheels for NASCAR and all over the place. The seats, Sparco, like the exhibitors that have been involved with PRI and racing for decades are also expanding their business to get into this world and feed that sim craze that's going on. Or it's not a craze, it's a thriving competitive business model for sure. And so I only see that being a growth area. I think sims are going to continue to grow and expand, and they're at every price point, from a couple $100 to get into the millions of dollars on one sim. But it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. We don't ever want it to get to where it becomes the show, but we think it's a definite great complementary piece to everything else going on at the show, if that makes sense. And back to the generational aspect, love go-karting. Go-karting's amazing. And not every 8, 10, 12-year-old that wants to get into racing has the resource, means, or even parental support to get into karting. And it's pretty big. It's a much larger commitment than going on Amazon and buying a starter sim and sticking it in your basement and letting your child understand how a car acts when it goes through a turn, or how you run through the gears and shift through a manual transmission when you're 10 years old. So I'm excited about sim. I think it's great, and I think it's going to continue to evolve. If you go over there, and I would highly encourage you to check it out while you're here at the show, there's a buzz over there, and it is packed. And the technology you see is, some of those sims you feel like you're in the car. You feel like you are in the car.
Back to your point about not having the same show year after year, not letting it be stagnant. It sounds like you're already evolving. I mean, just from last year to this year.
100%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think there was a turning point in the sim side when it evolved from just video game to sim racing.
Right.
And part of the innovation that we can mark was, if you remember playing pole position.
You took the word right out of my mouth.
In the arcade, feeding quarters in at your Showbiz Pizza, and wherever you played your video games. But one thing that I remember is the early versions of pole position, as you're driving the road course car around, you're passing billboards, and all the billboards said one thing. They
Namco or something.
All said Namco, right?
Yeah.
And it was advertising the manufacturer of the video game.
Right.
And somebody woke up and said, no, let's put real brands in there, right? So now from this whole thing, I always point to the evolution that Robert Peterson brought to our automotive world with Hot Rod Magazine and Motor Trend Magazine. Peterson recognized his cradle to grave strategy, which was get kids interested in Cartoons magazine, and then you evolve them up into Hot Rod, and then to Carcraft, and then they start a family, and then you put them into Motor Trend, and they're buying a new car, and then you have customers for life. And the Sims are a way to do that and expose them to the solid brands very young.
And they become billionaires, and then they die, and they leave their collection of cars to the Peterson Museum.
Right. That's what usually happens. Yeah.
What a plan.
So, interesting point. John Dudin's not even in the building. He had to leave yesterday. I had no intentions of plugging him twice, but John's awesome. Just a great human being that happens to be really good at his job. He was talking yesterday, we were in a conversation about sims, and he said that we were talking about data access, and every second 10,000 points of data are coming into the cars when they're racing. BMW, over in Germany, has a war room with a sim in it, a bunch of engineers sitting next to it on their computers, receiving real-time data from the car on the track, and they mimic the same conditions, 47 degrees, slight rain, on the sim. The guy's driving on the sim, and then they're figuring out how to fine-tune and make adjustments to the suspension or to the wing or to the aerodynamics. Real time, feeding that data from a sim in Germany to Road America.
Man.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
That's taking place today.
That's some next level stuff, man.
Well, and
Talk
a lot of
about
times,
real time?
for sure, and a lot of times we tend to think of these stratospheric levels of technology as unattainable, or what F1 is doing, or technically NASA. I had a conversation yesterday with Kenny Duttweiler, who's a legendary engine builder, and the engine builder with the Speed Demon land speed car program that was started by George Poteet, who we lost this past year, but they're going to be racing again in 25 with the Speed Demon, which is great. And he was saying that, so you're dealing with an engine that's making probably 3,200 horsepower, and it's a 1.82 to 1 gear ratio. So the Streamliner can't move on its own, basically.
Right.
So they need to have a push truck that at the Bonneville Salt Flats will push it through into the first mile. And when the vehicle speed reaches 45, 50 miles an hour, they put it in gear. It's a 7-speed transmission, and then the Streamliner can take off on its own and start to build speed and go through the land speed course, right? Well, the instructions to the driver are put your foot to the floor, basically, because they're controlling the speed by boost and fuel remotely, technically.
Really?
600 points of data coming in off the Streamliner.
Wow.
And after the run, which is a 5-mile course, then the shutdown, you bring back to the pits, Kenny Duttweiler and the tuner will look at 2 large screen monitors, and Kenny takes about 100 points of data himself, and then the other guy takes, the other 3 or 4 based on what they're looking at, up to 600, and then they, modify all kinds of parts of the setup of the car: suspension, aero, tuning, ignition, fuel, turbo control, all that. And this is in the Salt Flats,
Yeah.
So it's great to see how it just disperses across 2 radically different forms of racing.
Right, for sure.
Right.
But all that stuff's here, So you mentioned the Peterson Museum, one of my favorite places to go, and that's kind of where Mike Good and I really kind of got to know each other. Was this past summer. We were both at the SEMA Hall of Fame gala in Los Angeles, well, actually in Orange County in Anaheim, and I was working the Hall of Fame as the MC, and the next day we had some time off to go do stuff in LA, and I told Kelly, my wife, that I wanted to go to the Peterson, and she said, you remember that guy you met last night, that Mike Good guy? Well, him and his wife, we might go with them. So she kind of set that up, or you guys communicate or something. And Mike got dragged through the Peterson by me, which I apologize for.
It was awesome. I stopped halfway through. I said, I need to run to the restroom. I'll be right back. And I ran in the restroom, and I Googled, is Kevin Oeste a Peterson tour guide? When we got done, I told Kelly, I was like, I don't know what you guys have planned for retirement after the shop, but I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be moving to LA, and he's going to be a tour guide here for real. Came so natural to him. He's talking about so the lug nuts on this car, Mike, let me tell you about them. And you're sitting here and you're like, you got to be kidding me. And I don't even know if it was all lies, but it was said so confidently that I believed it.
Well, delivery is half the challenge.
That's right. No, I'm teasing. Crazy knowledge. Commend you on that, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. You just happen to be with arm's reach, so you got the story.
Right.
You know, the strange ones are there, when I'm there by myself.
I bet. I bet.
I think I was paid a compliment yesterday by a friend of mine who owns an engine shop, and named Mike Pistello. And we were talking about a car that we want to build in our shop and some of the technology and things that we want to incorporate into this car. And he stops and he looks at me and he said, your ability to BS and make a solid career for your whole life is astounding.
That's a compliment. That's 100% compliment.
I like to think that it was.
That needs to be a quote.
Absolutely.
Word art on your wall.
Yeah. Exactly. So we've obviously been talking about the show and about PRI, but let's talk a little bit about Mr. Good and kind of what fuels your passion. What are the stuff that you think is cool in this whole space?
Oh man, I love it all. And I'm not saying that because of the earlier agnostic comment. I've always been a fan of all of it, and I think it's just my dad didn't really have a favorite. He never had the means to get into the car, and so because he enjoyed speed, he was an engineer by trade, went to GMI. He loved the technical side of this industry, and so we would literally go to tractor pull and dirt tracks and modifieds and walk the pits, and he was always looking at the inner workings of these cars and the suspension setups, and I was always intrigued by that. And so it kind of gave me a non-favorite perspective, I guess. But then I moved to Indy. I was 12 years old when I moved here, been to 29 500s. Didn't really know a whole lot about open wheel until I got to Indianapolis in 1984. And, I've always thought that just the speed at what they're doing and how they're creating the downforce for that car to stick in that turn at 236 or whatever the speed might be is just surreal. The aerodynamics is something that I think I've become more and more of a appreciation for as I've aged, because I'm seeing these cars hit these speeds and stick to the track. The tires play a huge role in that, but the overall aerodynamics of how these cars are able to do what they're doing, because gravity's a bitch. Like it's part of the equation, and so. I started out on two wheels, so very early started out in BMX bikes when I was a little kid, and then I wanted to get into motorcycle racing, and my dad said, I had amazing parents, but self-made everything, and he said, well, I'm not buying you a motorcycle. And I said, well, if I save my own money, could I get one? And he's like, well, if it's your money, I can't tell you not to do it. So I went out, got a paper route, and started mowing yards, 12 years old. I've been employed ever since, and that's how I bought my first motorcycle. And then I think my third bike was a 86 Honda CR 125. This is back when they were two strokes and had stones. And got into racing, and my parents never really were into it, but my buddy was, and his dad, and they had a trailer, so I put my bike on my buddy's trailer and asked my dad for $30 for gas for the week, and got into moto, and truly fell in love with motocross. Just didn't have a lot of opportunities to do much with it, so it was just a hobby. Then life, long story short, got into kind of enthusiast racing on four wheels with track attacks and SCCA stuff, and but I love it all. For me, it's I'm a huge fan of the manual transmission, and I'm saddened, and I totally get it. The transmissions today are ridiculously cool, but being that none of my kids want a manual transmission, because they're like, why would you? Can't touch the phone, you can't mess with the radio. So I failed there in my parenting side, I guess, but so I love it all. I'm always attracted to I'm looking for a car right now that I can weekend track, and looking at some Shelby GT350s, maybe the Mach 1. So we'll see, and those are cars you can do some small mods to and make some big changes, and but then I was born in 1972. So, the dream is to really go. I'd love to find a 72 Camaro, or actually Firebird ideally, and just resto mod the heck out of it. And make it look like a Ring Brothers build, but on a Mike Good budget. But we'll see, and I'd love to, everything I would want to track it. I would want to put it on the track and see what it can do. And so, been to numerous schools and love it, huge fan. So this is the culmination of a lot of things here, doing this job. So you get to kind of see it all.
Well, it's great to know that the guy at the helm of the organization has track time experience on various types of vehicles, so you can empathize and sympathize and identify where a lot of times people don't,
Sure. Now, Frank Hawley could give me some advice on how to better utilize the line lock, but I jacked that up a couple times. But no, man, it's fun.
I remember being on that tour at the Peterson, and you were mentioning a high school buddy of yours who had a 68 Cutlass.
Yeah.
And I to Brian and
W30.
Mike, extending him the invitation to come visit our shop because we have a 68 442 in the shop right now on a Roadster shop chassis with an LS3 and a 6-speed, and you need to go around the block on that one.
Yeah. His dad bought him this banana yellow W30.
Yeah.
You know the car.
Yeah.
Had the big wing on the back.
Yep.
4-speed, 454. It was 454 or 455? 455. And Chad was his name, the kid that had the car. And that car, this was in 1988. We just got our driver's licenses. We should have died. The car was breaking the tires loose on the highway.
Yeah.
And it's those moments you're like, now at this age, you just want to go recreate those moments.
For sure. Well, speaking of 1988, being the first year of the PRI show.
That is correct.
We are going to wrap this whole thing up by revealing the answers to our riveting trivia questions, although I'm sure we could sit here and chat with Mr. Good for hours on this stuff, so I appreciate you joining us today. The first trivia question was, where was the very first PRI show held, and how many exhibitors were there?
That's correct.
And Mr. Cueball said Cleveland. And how many would you say?
50 exhibitors, I said.
50. Mike Good said Louisville, and you said 68?
82.
Oh, 82. Okay, 82. And Brian said LA and 60. 60, right. Well, the correct answer actually goes to Mr. Mike Good. It was Louisville, but I think the number was wrong.
Oh, I pulled that from the sky.
Well, I think it was 238.
Oh, see? I wasn't giving Steve enough credit.
You weren't. But you sure did yesterday when you inducted him into the very first PRI Hall of Fame as the first inductee.
Yeah,
so
that was cool.
That was super cool. So that was that one. The second trivia question was Mr. Good's.
How many years? Longest tenured employee that's currently
Still with us,
That's still with
Yes.
us. Still with the company.
And Mike said,
I said 35 years.
Brian, what'd you say?
Brian said 32.
32.
And
Kevin said 17.
17, right.
So I should have got on my phone and validated it. I'm pretty sure it's 31 years and it's Meredith Burns.
Yes.
Nice.
Outstanding. So you guys split the difference there,
And,
right? 30.
Karen Davidson is 30. Nicole Harless, 29. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible.
That is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the business climate of today where people jump ship every 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a great question. And those people deserve that credit that they probably
They're the
don't
ones,
get.
by the way, that are putting on this show. This show is pretty much predominantly 98% put on by females.
Nice.
And it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
And
That's
they are
awesome.
badasses.
Yeah, and it
They
runs like clockwork.
Are great at what they do.
Yeah.
One standing right in front of us.
Yeah,
Hi,
for sure.
Leanne.
Yeah, Leanne helped us out tremendously on this. Thank you, Leanne. All right, well, gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. Again, Mike, I appreciate you joining us. And congratulations for this inaugural event for you. But
Thank you.
A great show, and I have not seen or heard anybody say anything to the contrary that this was a fantastic experience.
Thank you.
So hats off to you.
Thank you. You guys are good at what you do. I'll come back anytime.
All right.
Just not the rest of this week.
Come on, Dad. We'll have 72 Camaro waiting for you when you get back.
There you go.
Yep.
That's it, Mike. Yeah,
Send you
Brian's been taking
Firebird
notes.
waiting
Oh, yeah.
for you.
Yeah, he's the Pontiac guy, so it'd be a Firebird.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has been the V8 Radio Podcast. If you enjoyed this stuff, you can click that subscribe button, and like magic, our latest episode will just appear in your inbox from somewhere, which is always fun. And thank you so much for joining us and listening and supporting. And to everybody here at the PRI Show, thanks for coming. And hope you have a tremendous show from Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clarke, Mr. Mike Good, and Mr. Brian Wibbenmeyer. I'm Kevin Oeste, reminding you to keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you next time on V8 Radio.